Hey, what's going on, everybody? We live, ready to go today. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of the Counterpoise Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Stevenson, joined by one of my other co-hosts, our co-hosts.
How you guys doing? I am Samantha Adams. Thank you for tapping in with us. We know we've been absent for a while, but life been life. We've been moving and shaking, moving and grooving, trying to get some things handled, managed and taken care of around these parts. But today we are coming to you with a hot topic. Just so y'all know, I am double streaming. I'm right here with you guys on YouTube, but I'm also on the Tagged app. So for those of y'all that are on the Tagged app, if y'all want to tap into the conversation, just go ahead and request the box. Otherwise, yeah, we here. We out here doing the thing. So today we are here to talk about Puff Daddy, aka Diddy, aka Brother Love, aka
Take
Puff.
that, take that.
Take that. Right. So, everybody at this point knows what's going on with Diddy. We also already did a podcast on him, on the situation back in March. I think it was March. Oh no, it was before March when Cassie, who's also a singer and former girlfriend of Puff, went ahead and filed a civil lawsuit against him, accusing him of all types of heinous acts, which included different forms of domestic violence along with sexual assault charges. And it was a civil suit. So it's a lawsuit, meaning she's suing him. It's not a criminal thing going with that. And we're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on some of the legal aspects of that today. So back when that happened, we were just like, what will be revealed? But if you remember, he went ahead and he settled like immediately. It was like it was within 36 hours that he went ahead and paid his fare to her. So, we all said then, like, that's indicative that he ain't really trying to have this thing, he don't want to be the next victim of the cancel culture. You know what I'm saying? And so now here we are. It's about a few months later, and he has been canceled. Since then, the houses in Miami and in California have been raided. His son came out with a diss track to 50 and was, I'm not gonna say implicating, but implicating some things, you know what I'm saying? And it's like you're trying to get your pops indicted. What are you doing? Just sit down and be quiet, bro. And then a video came out a couple weeks ago. The video was back from 2016, back when Diddy and Cassie were still together, and it's one of the incidents that is in fact outlined in a lawsuit. And many of y'all had to have seen the video. It's a video of her trying to leave a hotel, like escape almost, because she doesn't have her shoes on. And when she gets to the elevator, she pushes the button, she starts putting on her shoes, has her bags, puts her bags down. And they're not even big bags, like a purse and another bag. And Diddy comes running up the dang on hallway with a towel on, grabs her, throws her to the ground, takes her bags and starts to kicks her and stomps on her, then tries dragging her down the hallway. And mind you, he definitely said, I'm completely innocent of all of these allegations. And then the video came out. So here we are. So
Let's not forget that he also dropped a apology, I believe, as well. Apology video that came out shortly after the video was released. The incident that you just referred to. So
yeah,
going on.
and I just got finished watching something on Tubi, but TMZ did a special on the downfall of Diddy. And it's hour long. And one of the things that it talked about was how it touched on how Diddy started making these changes, these random changes, right? Remember, he changed his name to Brother Love legally. He gave back the publishing. He started giving his artists their publishing. And Aubrey, I can't remember her name, Day, I think her name is. She was in Danity Kane. She's had the biggest issue with him, and she's been super. I'm not gonna say the biggest issue, but she's been super vocal about her issues. She talked about it. I don't think she signed the publishing deal though, because it definitely was. They had a non-disclosure portion of it, a clause in it, and and she was only gonna get like $300 and something. So yeah. And so, but also too, Danny Kane, although they were a pretty popular group, they weren't that popular in the grand scheme of popularity when you're talking about groups and also people that were backed by Diddy. Um, so you know, I'm curious about what other people got, but that's just me being nosy as opposed to knowing the legal stuff.
I mean, and it's so funny because, like you say, when I feel like some people might feel like that it's that blood in the water, you just seeing people coming out the blue. I think they had asked Freddie P for making the band about something about Diddy and what some of the things he had going on. And I just thought that was kind of random because it's like, man, we ain't thought about making that band in well over 20 some odd years, it seems
Right.
like. But it was just like, man, it's just funny because now like everybody has some type of opinion. I think we saw like a former bodyguard, his assistant come in and she had some statements. She had made some statements as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it's an interesting piece if y'all want to go ahead and check that thing out. But that leads to the next aspect of it, right? So LAPD came out with a statement not long after the video surfaced, and LAPD's statement was about whether or not charges could be filed against Diddy. And so that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, and it's the criminal aspect of it. So I'm gonna just dive right in. You guys know me to be a criminal defense attorney, so I'm gonna just go ahead and talk about that aspect of it, and you can go ahead and chime in whenever you have something. But we all have heard the term statute of limitations, and what that means is almost every crime, not all, but almost every crime has a statute of limitations. And what that means is that means the government has a certain amount of time to file charges against a person for allegedly committing a crime. Now, obviously, they are supposed to have, heavy on the supposed to, they're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? And so, but it's literally just about filing those charges. And misdemeanors have a much shorter period of time, the statute of limitation time, than a felony does. Domestic violence often falls under the misdemeanor statute, but there are some federal laws that govern the statute of limitations. So when you're talking about statute of limitations for crimes, right? I believe we looked it up yesterday. How many years was it yesterday? We looked it up. E, do you remember?
I do not remember that exact time frame.
I don't remember, but it was under 5 years, right? And so I know in the state that I live in, it's 2 years. And so again, this incident occurred in 2016. It's been 8 years. So they are barred from being able to file charges against Puff for the domestic violence. Now, some domestic violence cases can be felonies, but there are certain circumstances that can make them felonies. The type of abuse, right? That's one. Like in the state that I'm in, choking somebody and leaving marks, visible marks, something like that, can be considered a felony. Also, too, if they are a repeat offender, if it's the same complaining witness or alleged victim, to make those charges, those claims against a defendant, at that point, they can. Can you guys hold on for me for just 1 second?
Yeah, so basically, what Sam was going with letting them know, like, and adding what can be some of the things that can heighten a penalty and raise it. Like she's mentioned, the type of abuse, some of the things that we can refer to in that is the way in which they use that abuse. Uh, Maybe like closed hands versus the open palm, using different
Instruments, things like that. Like it could be an aggravate, like if there's a weapon, any battery can potentially become a domestic violence. It's just a matter of what the degree is, whether or not that state uses degrees, whether or not there's a weapon, and also too, things like that, right? The manner in which the abuse takes place. That's probably the best way to sum that portion up. But also too, if they're a repeat offender. So like let's say Bob has a domestic violence case. I mean, Mary has been a victim of domestic violence, and Bob is the one who's accused of committing that crime. If there are multiple um, incidents or cases pending, especially where there was a conviction on one, the second one in the state that I live in is a felony. In other states, I don't know if it's less or more. Typically, whenever the police are called for domestic violence type of a case, somebody's probably going to go to jail, right? Even though iron it out later. But because the police can be held liable, right? If you guys recall, I can't remember the young lady's name, but there was a young lady that went out to like the the Grand Canyon with her boyfriend, and it was like a dispute or whatever. Police arrived. They could tell if they were arguing or whatever, but police left. Then the homeboy went back home to like Minnesota or wherever, Iowa. I can't remember where he was from, somewhere in the Midwest. Without the girl. Then nobody knew what she was. They found her body in a mountain somewhere, and then he disappeared, and then they found him in the woods where he had killed himself because he had actually murdered her. So, the police can be held liable for stuff like that. The government can be. And so in order to, try to stay away from that liability, they got to make sure that they arrest somebody for something like that. So in this instance, because the statute of limitations have run on that particular incident, they can't do anything. But that's not to say there aren't other incidents, right? Something like that doesn't just happen. Like that kind of stuff is been happening. There's got to be some form of escalation to that point, and I'm sure it's not an isolated incident. There's also another video with you have Cassie on the floor hiding under a blanket. Looks like there's blood on the floor, and Diddy's talking about, yeah, my girl had to learn a lesson or whatever he said. And it's looking crazy. The video looks crazy. It's not a good look for Diddy. And so we don't know what other incidents there are, what other people, because what other people have had any type of experiences with him. And so it's going to be interesting to see. And then if there are other people with other incidents, well, how much time has passed? Does it fall within the statute of limitations and things like that? And so one of the other questions is, people are like, oh, well, why didn't the security people watching that security video, watching him do that, cause him? I mean, like, why didn't they call the police? Well, he paid $50,000, which is a form of a bribe, but the statute of limitations ran on that, and also bribes, it's not really called a bribe, right? A bribe involves a government official. It's really just, paying off the witness.
Like intimidating the witness.
Yeah, and trying to get them to not contact the police. But we looked into that statute out there in California, and the statute of limitations ran on that too. So, no matter how much somebody wants to like go and do whatever, they can't because statute of limitations ran. I remember with Bill Cosby, they tried to change the law so that they could go back and get some and charge him with some of the crimes from back in the day. And you can't. That's called an ex post facto law, and that is actually illegal. It violates the Constitution of the United States. So you can create a law, but the law has to be good from that day going forward. You can't make the law retroactive. And so yeah, so that's what that's looking like there. On tagged, I have Isaiah who says, but what about everyone who knew something? What does that say about them? Now, morally, that's a totally different thing than something legally, right? I think that if there are more things that come out that fall within the statute and people can go ahead and move forward, those people can go ahead and move forward with prosecuting, those people do have potential to become culpable, right? It says, especially if they're accessories to a degree. And then it says, why did she continue to stay with him? What was the purpose? Before I answer that question, I want to let E chime in.
Yeah, can you read the question one time for me, please?
So the first question was, but what about the people who knew something? What does that say about them?
Okay, yeah. So in regards to individuals who had knowledge of what was going on, I definitely think that it shows that they are being enablers. And in some senses, if some of the things that's being stated are true, they could be liable on as like you mentioned, accessories. You know what I'm saying, to the crime or accessories after the fact in some senses. If they may have aided him with either leaving some situation like as wild as this situation could be, essentially they could look to try to get his driver, okay, something like that, who left when he left after, what I'm saying, an event, because he might have been considered to be an accessory after the crime. Even though the driver may not have known what was going on in the hotel room or what had happened or took place at all. And so I think when you ask like what could happen to the people who know, I think the level of their understanding may play a role in it, as well as whatever actions they may have taken and preparing either the assistance after the fact of hiding or abating like, the law for some of the crimes, or what they may have done in the beforehand act to maybe acquire things that would require them to allow him to do these type of crimes.
Yeah.
So, um, I think that may be something that people could face, in addition to his charges. I also think that, like you said, this is interesting because it could get messy. You know what I mean? We know that, of course, he's probably didn't kept some receipts and feel as though if people feel sometimes like, oh, if I'm going down, I just bring people down with me just because, misery loves company. I know
Mhm.
there's been a lot of people that's been in the world. There's been a lot of quiet talk, a lot of things that's been kind of down and out. So I definitely feel like that's been interesting to see like what that discussion is and what that conversation has been like, as far as is he just gonna go down silently, or will he have an Epstein list that never gets released as well? Um,
I think he'll have a list because Diddy had over 250 cameras in his home.
right, right. So some people were discussing that as well. Like, who knows if people might have been able to see what he had going on, what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? If they were involved in some of those activities, um, who knows?
Yeah, yeah. And then his other question was, why did she continue to stay with him? Was it for the purpose to only sue? Nah, not at all. So, what I heard, I don't know how true it is, but what I heard was what happened in that video that went viral at that hotel, was at some point she did in fact leave. She was able to get away from him. She went downstairs and she tried to get a Uber or a cab or whatever to a house, a home or something like that. They could put a fade west. Um, and the people downstairs told her not to do that. They told her that it's not safe. for her to go home and that she should go back upstairs because they saw the video and they had concerns about her safety and they were afraid that if she went home, something would happen to her there. And that's like they can't like be filmed, she can't be protected in that way. And so that's one reason. Another reason is because when you're talking about a battered person, I'm not gonna say a battered woman, I'm gonna say a battered person. Because men get battered all the time, and it's one of the most underreported crimes out there. So when you're dealing with a battered person, you have to understand that they're groomed first. So mentally, they are broken down to a place where they don't feel as though that they can leave. So many of them suffer from Stockholm syndrome, where they feel like they're in prison and cannot leave. If you recall, Cassie and Diddy had an on again, off again relationship. So I'm pretty sure she had tried to leave many times, but he was able to woo her to get her back, which is very common in domestic violence type of relationships. And I don't believe it was because of her career. I believe that may have kept her there at the beginning when he was
I'll say,
probably
you got the employee-employer relationship as well with her
yeah.
being his label.
Yeah, and I think that may have kept her when he was like probably grooming her, but then at some point, once the physical abuse started, I'm pretty sure it was just it was just battered woman stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then plus, we don't know that much about Cassie. We don't know a lot about her past and her childhood and all that, and how susceptible to certain things that she is. And it doesn't mean that people that are not as quote unquote susceptible cannot be victimized. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we just don't know enough about her to know what it took for him to get her to that place. Because what it takes for an abuser to get a woman to that place is different and for every person. So, that whole aspect of it is just interesting. You know what I'm saying? We don't know. But I don't believe it was to sue because she finally left, then she met her husband, they got married and had a baby, two babies, something like that. So I don't think that it had anything to do with suing, and I think at some point it had something to do with her career, but at some point it was just like whatever, I'm out of here. Because at some point, if you are afraid for your life and your safety, then you gotta pick one: life and freedom or career. You know what I mean? And I don't know how much her relationship with Diddy hurt her career. I don't. I don't think that's one of those things that we'll ever know. But I did want to kind of switch gears, unless you had something else. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and
Uh,
talk about the civil
yeah, I
lawsuit.
was gonna answer the question too.
Okay, go ahead.
The Cassie thing. Why do I think that she's been there? Stay there. I think, like you mentioned earlier too, like as far as the career, I think that there's that mindset that that there's a chance that I may get a chance to prolong my career. You know what I mean? I might not get dropped from the label as fast as maybe other artists may have been. Uh, and then another little that like we looked at when we talk about advancements within the career, when we look at the situation with Young Miami, we can see how she was able to get her podcast on the Revolt, which was a website of, a network of Mr. Combs. Prior, it was a TV network that he owned, and he was able to allow her to have a show on that network. I think that's indicative of the fact that um, she happened to have that type of relationship with him. Not saying that that's the sole reason, but I think when you have a direct relationship with someone up top, there's certain perks that come with it. So I do think that eventually though she might have realized that sometimes having proximity to a lot of access comes with a lot. And unfortunately, it came with some things that she may not have known was going to be there when she signed up. The abuse and the other sexual things that was alleged.
Right,
As well. Like no one, I don't think no one would voluntarily sign up for those type of things. But I
right.
point, I think once you're in an environment in which that's the case, it's almost like a shock that they may face at some point. Um, and then maybe a loss of this, how to even get away. Especially when you're dealing with someone with that type of power. Like I think there was an allegation of him blowing up a car at somebody else's house, or
Yeah, it was Kid Cudi. So what they said about Kid Cudi, they said that Cassie at one of their breaks, she allegedly started dating Kid Cudi, and he was like, "I bet I'll light his car on fire." And then, people say stuff you don't believe them, and the next thing you know, Kid Cudi's car got lit on fire. So, and they don't know who did it, but Diddy said he bet he would. So, you know, um, and Kid Cudi said that's true. So, I mean, yeah,
so yeah, like I think like you said, when you look at the fact that this is a person that has these type of powers, where there's videos that's going through, where there's people who were willing to help you in the moment, but not willing to, what I'm saying, release the tapes or do like real weird stuff that is going. It's like you don't even really think that you got a real chance. Almost like it's like this man able to control any and everybody where he's at. Like he got that upper hand, and I think it's tragic that it was able to go on for so long. But I mean, I think Cassie has just been like this like representative of some of this abuse. But from things that we're hearing, these things have been going on since like the late '90s.
yeah.
Abuse that may have been shown towards different types of people around him and stuff. So women in particular. So yeah, man, I think it's a tragic situation. I think, like you said, somewhat of it might have been optimism for trying to maybe advance their career, and then some of it just was like you didn't bit off a little too much to chew, and at that point,
Mhm.
you well,
Yeah,
we might not have known what she could do.
yeah. I was going to transition a little bit into the civil lawsuits. There are several. Another person just some modeler, some model just came out and said that he had sexually abused her back or sexually assaulted her back in 2003. That's what the headline says, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the charge would be. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, what jurisdiction it is, what the law says about that. And so, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. And plus, there are other people that have lawsuits, a lot of people. And so, with a lot of people having those lawsuits, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to his finances. Because, like, what happened to R. Kelly, like, there was a bunch of lawsuits, but there was a whole criminal investigation. Just listen to the parallels, a whole criminal investigation where Homeland Security got involved, you know what I mean? And all that. And it's like, a lot of people think that it's interesting that people are so silent. But what you guys have to understand is that when an investigation is going on, especially if you're talking about something like Homeland Security, that's the feds. They have a 93% convict. I think 90 something percent conviction rate. I think it's 93%. It was the last time I checked. And they tell you, well, not to talk about the case. They tell you that. So if there are people that have been interviewed, they may have been instructed to not discuss the case. So while people are like, well, why is so and so being quiet? Why is so and so being quiet? Because if the feds went ahead and interviewed them, they have been instructed to be quiet about what was talked about, regardless if they gave a lot of information, a little information, and if they gave no information, there's nothing to say, right? You don't want to go ahead and put yourself out there to become involved, inserting yourself into a situation that you don't want anything to do with by saying something. And so, that's some of the ways that's happened. Stevie J has been very vocal because he's real close to Diddy, but also too, Stevie J was at the house when the feds came. You see what I'm saying? And he just talked about his experience. He never really said in that documentary, the TMZ thing I was telling you about. He didn't really say too much about what was said to him, whether or not he was questioned, anything like that. But he did talk about them coming in, what he was doing, what he said, like, "Hey, I'm the only one here," blah blah blah, and I tore the house up. So I mean, There's that. And so, and with these other lawsuits, is Diddy gonna go ahead and settle as quickly as he did with Cassie, right? Like I think that's gonna be interesting to see too, right? So I mean, more will be revealed. We'll see what happens. But also because Diddy has these connections, what does that look like? And then how many people are just jumping on the bandwagon? Like how many people are not really true victims? And that, I mean, personally, that's something that bothers me a little bit. Like when you have people that are not true victims and they're just trying to get a payday, but there are true victims involved. So then it kind of dilutes the circumstances with the people that have actually been violated. You know what I mean? So and then the other contrast about that one of the societal norms, disparities is you had Epstein and Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby even like that were accused of these things, and I don't recall them coming through like with military police raiding every house at the same time, doing all that like you would with some drug kingpin or somebody who's incredibly violent. I don't recall that. Do you? E?
Not at all.
Right.
Uh,
So it's like, why are y'all doing it like that? Because you know the accusation of guns and drugs. Don't everybody have that accusation?
I'm trying to tell you, and I was a billionaire. You know, you got the photo of the billionaire's family all out there getting cuffed and stuff. But I mean,
Right. Right. So, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I get the reason for the treatment, but I don't get I don't get, but I get the disparity. Like, why you gonna treat him like that? Treat everybody like that. Don't be out here like, being uneven in the way that you handle or manage your cases. It should be the same across the board. Um, and also cancel culture. Cancel culture got caught up with Diddy. And we labeled this episode "No Diddy" because remember back when people used to be like pause or whatever, whatever. Now it's "No Diddy." Now it's "No Diddy." People ain't fooling with Diddy. And E, I got a question for you. What do you think is gonna happen to the music he's produced? Because R. Kelly is different, right? R. Kelly is a musician where he's done so many great, great songs. He's written many great, great songs. Like we'll still listen to the songs he wrote, but a lot of people that have canceled R. Kelly won't listen to his music. Diddy is a little different because Diddy produced a lot of music.
yeah, that's tough. I mean, and I think it's tough too because we mentioned that question. Like when it comes to R. Kelly, is it like we're only gonna stop listening to the music that he produced as an artist, or are we also gonna stop listening to the songs that he wrote for other artists? You know what I'm saying? Because like that's the case, like you said, with the situation with Diddy. Are we gonna just say, oh, we only gonna not rock with Diddy on the P Diddy and the Family albums, or are we gonna say that? No, we taking off everything from Bad Boy, like we gonna shut down the whole.
I mean,
And then
it's
that's
everybody.
right.
It's
That's what I'm saying.
literally
Like, messing up everybody else's bag again because some of their biggest hits, like the locks and all of them, like it's a lot that can get messed up
Mary
by
J. Blige. Let's talk about it. You got Mary J. Blige. You got
Jodeci
Jodeci.
a
You
little
got
bit.
Usher. You got Justin Bieber. I mean, and mind you, in that documentary, it did outline what was going on with their relationship. We're not going to dive into that. But just talking about music, right? You talk about some of your favorite artists. He has produced music for and done music with, right? Notorious B.I.G. Craig Mack, Total, 112. These were bad boy artists for
Faith,
Faith, right? But
Keisha Cole.
Mary, who? What you say?
Oh, he had Keisha on a couple tracks.
Yeah, Keisha Cole. Like some of these people are not even bad boy artists, and he's produced so much music. Jay-Z, and a lot of people seem to think that Jay-Z is next on the block, chopping block. I don't know. I don't know about all that, but um.
But I will add this little thing just so let me put my little hotel hat on. I find it very funny. I like niggas say, I it's so funny because like when everybody say like, oh, the cat thing. I do wonder, like, is this like this whole like reckoning with a lot of stuff that's going on? Like, I think it's like the bottoming of like celebrity in a sense, because for so long we've looked at certain types of individuals and held them at certain esteem. And I think like within our community we've done it because it's like, oh well, look, they're pillars of examples of how we can achieve certain things. Look, they did it, they were able to do it. So you know what I'm saying? Every black girl used to want to be Oprah, you know what I'm saying, coming up or something like that. Not to say her particularly, but desired her business acumen. Versus when we look at, nowadays, when you mention, Ye was one of the first billionaires, and of course, that was some of the things that he said that kind of caught from that. Then you look at, of course, we had Bill Cosby, who's a big time entertainer and was believed to be very well paid. He faced a lot of issues, you know what I'm saying, coming up. So I don't know if it's something about people that's in the entertainment industry that was able to amass a certain amount of success. Are we seeing that those individuals are now having to address some things that may have required that may have happened along for them to kind of reach the top? So yeah, I just find it interesting to see that that's occurring right now
Yeah,
because Puff been flying by the sun for a long time,
yeah, exactly. Um,
and past his mentor Andre Harrell, like you know what I'm saying, like to really like get to that level where you were at a point where there was nobody like you. You know what I'm saying? It was you doing like you said, it was just you doing your thing. And then now it became the Master P's, the Brian Baby Williams, the QCP, who else had like record labels and became like moguls that we knew, you know what I'm saying, from not necessarily rapping, but from producing, record labels.
yeah, yeah. So more will be revealed. I think, we're about 37 minutes in. We're gonna go ahead and start digging into wrapping it up. I think this story ain't over. As a matter of fact, I think in the beginning we thought it was gonna be one of those one two step kind of things. This is just the beginning, I think. Because more things are gonna come up. So we gotta just go ahead and keep an eye out, keep watching, see what happens. Um, and yeah, so
All right. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead jump into our book of the month, which this book is called The 100 Marriage Decisions, Declarations plus Declarations You Need to Make Before Getting Married from Lawrence Adaja. And in this story, in this book, it lists like a lot of declarations for couples or decisions, things that people may not necessarily always think of or discuss prior to looking at bringing their lives together. Some examples will include like how do they want to handle the children and social media access, or cell phones, within a relationship. How would they want to handle, God forbid, death type of situations? So some of those uncomfortable questions that you normally may not necessarily hope to have, but you should have, so you can see if you guys are aligned in how you would like to move as a unit, as a family. So once again, that's the book of the month, which is the 100 Marriage Decisions and Declarations, and that was by Lawrence Adja. Adja. And then our business of the month is Club Euro. This is one of the longest black owned clubs in Fort Lauderdale. You guys can check that out. It's close to the Los Olas area, Club Euro. Anytime you guys are in the South Florida area, check them out, support.
yeah. And a motivational quote, for our motivational minute, our quote says, "We're caught up in circumstances. We're all good and evil. We're looking. I mean, when you're really hungry, for instance, you'll do anything to survive. I think the most evil thing, well, maybe that's too strong, but certainly a very evil thing is judgment, the sin of ignorance. Anthony Hopkins said that. I picked that quote because when you look at this situation, right, you have people who have passed judgment on both Cassie and Diddy, without knowing the full story leading up to now, and then learning more information. Ask yourself whether or not somebody can be rehabilitated from some of the things that he has been accused of doing, and whether or not he's done those things, and are you judging him, right? Because we don't really know, and I think that it's important to just kind of just see what happens and make decisions as they come, as opposed to just saying, yeah, he did it because I saw that one video. He did these things to everybody. I think it's important to not judge somebody based off of things like that, and just kind of watch and not necessarily make your judgment, but come to your conclusions as things come. Um, about both of them, right? Because a lot of times we will villainize the victim, and we will victimize the villain, and vice versa. So I think we need to just be careful about those kinds of things, and just utilize our moral compass, pay attention, and take a step back, and because it easily could be anybody if not you, on either side of that coin. So just be careful of that. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and bring this thing to a close. We want to thank you guys for tapping in with us. I know it's been a while, but we should be back. Big shout out to our brother Malik. When he is not here today, he is doing what Malik has to do. And so, yeah, make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and yeah, feel
All
free
right,
to
everybody.
reach out to us if you have any topics that you want to hear us talk about, if you ever want to be on the show. And you guys know how to reach us. And yeah, if you're right here on YouTube, this is it. You can hit us here, or you can go ahead and hit us up on our IG. My IG is Samantha Renee 77 underscore ESQ, and it's also Samantha ESQ underscore Counterpoise. Malik and Foster on all social media handles, but he also has Malik underscore Counterpoise.
Yeah, you guys can find me at CP underscore EV. Or you can find me on that guy 210 on Instagram. That being said, see you guys all next week and have a good one.
All right.
Peace.